Good morning, everyone. All right, great to see you guys smiling faces. Let's get into it. So today we're here to talk about our patient who has spastic diplegia cerebral palsy. His name is Kevin. He's 5 years old, and we know that affects both upper and lower extremities, but he is primarily affected in his lower extremities with some involvement in his right arm and right hand. He was referred to physical therapy for his a lack of being able to negotiate some uneven terrain and uneven surfaces at his school, being able to negotiate things like the playground equipment, playground terrain, cafeteria benches, and also just improve ball skills and different play skills in general. He's noted to enjoy playing outside, going to the pool, doing different kid play activities. So we're here to help him out. He is currently enrolled in a summer school program at his elementary school, and he's in a full inclusion classroom, which is a great thing for us. We'll be able to address his deficits with some other children around. Hopefully they'll be willing to help him out and do some activities that would also in general help some of the impairments that he lacks. So some important things to note about his condition: he was born at 28 weeks gestation, which is 12 weeks premature. He remained in the NICU for 5 months until he was finally discharged. So that already tells us that he has some deficits that we should definitely be conscious of as we are working with him in treatment. Some past clinical history: he had necrotizing enterocolitis as well as retinopathy. I always mess up that word, retinopathy of prematurity, which has to do with his eyesight, his vision. But currently, Kevin, he's a trooper. He is doing great. He walks or ambulates with a posterior walker. He has bilateral AFOs that he uses daily to ambulate, and he also wears glasses. So we're here to mainly address his current state right now. So his primary problem function list: he has, of course, we know has spastic tone, so his range of motion. He has hyperextension in his bilateral lower extremities. He also has that flexor tone where he's affected in his right arm, and it looks a little bit like that. We'll see it when we get to meet him. Strength is pretty weak, just natural, comes with the condition. And then his secondary impairments: he's actually doing fairly well for his condition. He is fair with his balance, with his coordination, with his endurance, and his flexibility. But these things are all with the consideration of him using his assistive device as well. So our main target is for him to be, of course, fair and good, and even better than that without the assistive device. Some of his actual functional limitations that we're going to be directly working on throughout our sessions with him and as we progress in our time with him is his difficulty maintaining speed and control when he's walking with his peers, especially in distances that are over 200 feet. So he's a kid, he wants to be able to move with the rest of his classmates, with his peers, especially because he's in a full inclusion classroom. We don't want to neglect that fact. He's going to be very sensitized to, this is what this kid is doing, this is what that kid is doing. I'm sure he knows he has a condition, but he's still a kid. Those things are going to come into play. So we're addressing that. He also has difficulty negotiating areas of the school, like the playground equipment, cafeteria benches. Those are a little difficult for him, so we'll be working on those limitations for him. And then last but not least, he has difficulty transitioning from standing in his posterior walker to sitting into his pod in the classroom. I know this must be difficult because he requires assistance to be able to do this, minimal to moderate assistance to be able to do this on a daily. And you can imagine how many times, kids have to get in and out of a chair every single day in school. So we're going to address this for him and see what we can do. So some of the goals that we have for Kevin here, short-term goals, we would love to see reduced tone. So we'd measure that by having his number on his modified Ashworth scale go at least one lower than what it was when we initially meet him. We want to see an increase in his bilateral quad and extensor strength to, of course, demonstrate increased strength. Within the next 5 weeks, we're looking to see an improvement in his static and dynamic balance. Right now it's fair, but we'd love to see it go to good with his assistive device, which is his posterior walker. Same thing with his coordination. We'd love to see it go from fair to good with his walker. And lastly, he is currently at level 3 on the GMFSC scale, which basically rates a child's ability to be in the community, how much assistance they require doing functional things. And at level 3, that means that he's able to be functional enough with an assistive device. In this case, he uses his walker, he uses things to be able to get him around. Now, level 2, he's still using an assistive device, but he's not as dependent on it to be able to do these things. He's a little bit more ambulatory independently, and that's definitely one of our long-term goals, to be able to get him there. So going into that, the long-term goals, we want to see him be able to safely negotiate the classroom without bumping into chairs or tables or other objects and equipment that are in the classroom. We want to see him be able to go from stand to sit into his pod at least 5 times a day with just contact guarding, no assistance, and then we also want to see him be able to ambulate with just supervision in one entire school day in 8 months, which is definitely something that I think is doable with his condition. And then the progressions that will go with these goals. We're now looking at him being able to negotiate different areas of the school. So now trying to see if he can get those cafeteria benches, those playground equipment. In a year, 12 months, we're looking to see him go from not only stand to sit, but also sit to stand and one school day independently. And then we're also looking to see him go independently on level and unlevel surfaces such as playground terrain, which we know can vary depending on where you are, park, school, So we'd like to see him achieve all these things in 12 months, and I think it's definitely doable. But all these goals aside, some things that we should consider before working with him and as working with him is that he may have some cognitive, behavioral, and psychological impairments upon meeting him, on his motor performance as a result of some brain insult that comes with being born prematurely. So we should be very mindful of that. Specifically in this classroom, we want to monitor his cognitive and social skills, specifically because he's in a full inclusion classroom and he's obviously surrounded with other kids, and we want to monitor the way he's able to understand and work through those type of things, and also for possible intellectual delays as he builds those interactions throughout his school career. Then we also want to look at the fact that he's also receiving not only PT but OT and speech, so we want a good collaboration between the different professions, making sure that we're all coordinating our treatment, making sure things are optimal for each other as we work with him to be able to get the best results and progress him. And then lastly, Currently, we do know he has physical and visual deficits, so we're being mindful of what he has right now, the things that he, is using, his walker, his AFOs, his glasses. We're being mindful of those things as we are, working on his goals and working on his progressions, and just in general, knowing that because he has cerebral palsy, things can happen. Some of the goals may be, what we want to see, but something can come up and then this sets us back in some goals. So we just need to be mindful of where he's at right now, and that things can progress or things can regress, and we should be able to adapt to those changes. So going into our PT session, we're going to be playing with him at recess time, which is 1 hour given to us. I was told that some other students in the classroom might be able to come and play with him, to be able to make the games more fun, children friendly, of course. I think kids are always down to play a game. We are going to be addressing mainly his balance and his endurance throughout these activities. So we have activities like beanbag toss. We're looking for him to be able to maintain that postural control, standing upright while doing an action, not allowing his body to fall into any specific flexor or extensor tone. Of course, he has his walker with him, but we're still looking for him to be able to maintain that upright posture. We are also going to play hot potato. Same thing here. We're watching him and his postural control as he's, you have an object in hand. What do I do with the object? And being able to still maintain that postural control. All the while, we're here for contact guarding and assistance and support as needed in these activities. Then we're going to get a little bit more active and we'll play Duck Duck Goose, which is addressing his endurance primarily. We want to see him be able to move around, and of course it's not a long distance, which is good. Be able to start him off on a shorter distance and see how well he can move and keep up with his peers. And lastly, we are going to be doing a relay race to tie it all together. Here we're only going to be doing probably 100 feet, nothing more than that. And instead of running, we'll probably modify it to a speed walking race with the children to give Kevin that modifier that'll help him out, and also just see where he stands with his classmates. Of course, that's one of his biggest things, is being able to keep up in endurance with them, and we're here to address those things with him. That concludes our patient case, Kevin, that we'll see today. So let's go see Kevin.